Hello, Kalu Kalay. My name is Notepad Anon and I write games for fun, so what are we doing today? We're gonna be working more on Fear and Hunger, Solus and Somnium, a game about getting horribly dismembered, yes. From last time, I got some work done. Have no fear. Most notably, I finished combat. Reworded some things to the, I should say this, the, skirmish. The skirmish and melee phase. We have kind of how initiative is. I changed fast actions to frantic actions. I think that gives a little bit more of a tonal issue. Managed to fix this up to make it a little bit more simple to do. Block actions kind of has a parry damage instead. You can kind of do a parry if you choose to do a block action. Guarding does a little bit more. Maneuver is straight up just go to the back. I'll probably have to, what I can probably do is, I'm just going to put this add maneuver notes. I'll probably add those later. Pretty much the idea of maneuver is that there are 3 spaces you can be in a combat situation. I'm in the melee. I am in the shit with the enemy. They are attacking me. I am attacking them. You could say, hey, I am in the back. If I'm in the back, I can shoot, I can use ranged weapons, I cannot use melee actions, but they cannot hit me with melee. However, they can hit me with range, magic, doesn't matter. Finally, there is the retreat option. Retreating actually does a little bit of mind damage to the first person who retreats, but doesn't do any mind damage to anyone else. So it's kind of like, hey, retreating sucks if you are actively doing it. I might change that. I might say it's like, no, there's no retreat. Kind of like, hey, this is an organized retreat or something. That might be more appropriate, but I don't quite know the full details behind it. But yeah, finally we have, other item, and then striking. Striking was a little bit different. We have aimed. Aimed is just you aim for the limb of a target. That's it. Applying damage to the limb. If it's a precision, you get favor, which is pretty much you roll 2d20 and take the highest. Hey, it's brutality. You just deal an additional die worth of damage. So if you do 3d8 damage with a sword, you can now do additional 1d8. Or hey, a status condition associated with the weapon. Hey, I want to hit you. I want to inflict concussed on you. Hey, I want to stab you and you're going to now bleed or something like that. That's kind of the idea there. Give it a little bit more stuff going on with it. Did make a note about ranged and melee weapons. You can use melee weapon. You can use ranged weapons in melee. You can. That's completely fine. You're just using ammo though. That's the issue, and it's not as safe. So it's like, yeah, start blasting. Just keep track of ammo you're wasting on a creature that doesn't feel pain. This also kind of extends to like how the 2 hit charts work. This is kind of a it doesn't matter really, just like apply it to a body or whatever makes sense, but like, hey, you want to hit something randomly. What are you hitting? You roll that. I rolled a 16. I would have hit my right leg. Or hey, this enemy is huge. Roll a d20 and you're gonna hit roughly there. But that's just kind of my thing. I just didn't really want to deal with that. Rev points got a lot more work on them. Maximum 9, any excess is lost. Kind of the idea there. Some of the ones I added were things like bare fist block. All bare fist block does, and then instead of using a shield to it, to block for the block action, you're using your left or right arm. It's, hey, the strike is going to go to my head. I'm instead going to say, hey, no, bare-fisted block. I'm throwing my arm wide to pretty much soak the damage. But hey, I got a lot of armor on my arm, so it's going to eat the damage a lot more consistently. Dash is, you can just make a maneuver action for free. Just, you spent 2 and you're dashing away, or you're dashing into combat or something like that. There's a few options there. And guard is effectively a free counterattack if you're defending. If they miss, you immediately retaliate, which is pretty good. But it's also taking, you have to spend those turns doing it. You have to use it on the second turn, which maybe you only are going to be in combat for 2-3 turns, so maybe, you know, it's kind of like escape plan, immediately retreat from the battle, but you take no mind damage. That's kind of the, okay, we're all gonna use escape plan and just run. Just fuck this, we don't want to be here anymore. Where was some of the other one? Leg sweep, attack target 2 lower parts of the enemy. Let's put in rake. I don't know if rake's a good word, but does it encourage defensive or over offensive? It kind of depends, because you do have things like leg sweep and rake, because normally you attack 1 limb or you attack 1 height. Hey, you build up to 3. On your 3rd action, you can say, no, fuck that. I'm targeting 2 locations with 1 attack. Which is really good, actually, because it's like, hey, I've taken out both of your legs. You can effectively do double damage. However, you have to target in certain locations. The best way to think about what I want Rev to be is Rev is kind of a safety net. Anytime you can say, hey, I am taking damage. I've got hurt a little bit. I can try to redirect damage. I'm trying to mitigate damage. I'm trying to protect myself a little bit here. But you can always say, no, we have to go aggro. Start using Rev for leg sweeps, rakes, surging. Something to give you a little bit of that immediate advantage, which is valuable in its own right. Kind of the indirect way of what I want to occur. But you gain them 1 by turn, so it's better way to get some rev and then go all out. Yeah, it's the thing is with it, kind of like one thing I want to kind of get across with a lot of the game is, do you want to save this? Do you want to use something to protect yourself now, or do you want to eat a little bit of damage to automatically murk an opponent? Do you want to take a risk, or do you want to play it safe but maybe not get something you need later? We can use my ammo right now and really solve this problem very quickly, but I won't have that ammo later. I can use this spell to fix our problem right now, but we might not be able to use it later. That's always that kind of that. I want to play on that kind of that player instinct a little bit. I want to save this thing because I will need it, but I want to use it now because we need to use it. And if you do get into a situation of, I absolutely must use this. Yeah, I should protect myself now versus I can't let this slide, I've got to ration this. Yeah. And it should always feel like I need to, yeah, like you always need to. And that's why I'm giving, like, a lot of these are like redirect. Oh, like redirect, for example. Redirect is when you take the damage, you can burn your rev. When you've been hit, you know what the damage is going to be. You can say, nope, absolutely not. I need to take that to my body. I'm instead of getting my arm hacked off, I'm just losing some health. Which still hurts, don't get me wrong. It still hurts. You're not having fun, but it's going to keep you alive. It's going to keep your arm there. But that is, you're not fixing the problem in front of you, kind of thing. Like the fact that, like, yeah, okay, I'm in extreme pain. Please send help. That's not really fixing the problem at all. That's why, with I would say like 3 different tormented, you're going to have a lot of options. But it's kind of the guy who does want to save it up. Seize the Moment is really good. Because what happens with Seize the Moment is you say, hey, I want to do a dedicated action, but I'm using Seize the Moment. And now I'm acting in the frantic phase with 2 actions. Or, hey, we're doing we're doing flow state where I'm fast, but I'm a big fat fuck. With a big weapon, big heavy armor. I'm going to do flow state. We're flow stating right now. I'm going to be at top of the initiative right now, regardless of my armor. I'm now top of the list, and I'm going to be able to go first. So I, as the brick shithouse, have now immediately just smacked a motherfucker. You know, smacked you with a big hammer or whatever. Hey, oh god, there's nothing more cursed than getting ads in Twitch. Yeah, you get used to it. So, we still, again, as stated, we still don't have quite the answer to hunger. I have a few ideas, but none of them are really perfect. But today is status effects, so get ready for horrible, horrible things that can and will occur to people. Because I find it funny. That's all I want for Christmas, kids. I want you to feel nothing but pain. Nothing but pain and fucking misery. I find it funny. Okay, let's see. During combat, the tormented will find themselves suffering from various ailments, debilitations, and conditions. Each of these conditions will. Each condition will have an effect as well as dictate when it will end. Let's see, as well as have an effect as well as dictate when it will end. With many being tied to a particular limb, with many being tied to a particular limb. Status effects with edged or actually it'd be blunt or edged. Used with the status augment for a strike with the appropriate weapon type. Yep, nice and easy. So we need to go through and we're just gonna look at things. So brain damage, so we want to do the tormented. The tormented has suffered severe brain damage and is still miraculously alive. They reduce all fears by 4 and lose a random phobia of any intensity. They'll begin slur words and find it difficult to comprehend in most situations. If a can only be removed via a miracle. Yep. Right off the bat, immediate severe brain damage. Bleeding. We're going to put, this is going to be edged. Actually, we're going to do, the tormented begins bleeding from an open wound. They will lose 1d6 health every round. or 2d6 health every room they enter in. Every room they enter in the dungeon. Can be every round at the end of the combat, or with medical attention, or with an item, they will stop bleeding. If another stack of bleeding occurs, they will escalate to major severe upgrade to major then they will lose XD6 health every round, or XD6 health of room. They'll escalate they will escalate from minor, major, severe, and finally gushing blood. And what would be a good final, like, torrent? Major, severe, and insert a funny table. We insert the funny table that is going to be type of bleeding, round bleeding, room. Most likely, we're going to put this in a 2x2. We're going to put this in a side-by-side grid. So we want to do minor bleeding. It's going to be 1d6. It's going to be minus 1d6. You don't bleed during there. Minor, we're going to do major. It's going to be negative 2d6, negative 1d6. It's going to be negative 2d6. Actually, 1d6. Severe. Actually, no, we're going to do. Still going to be 1d6, but we're going to be doing 2d6 per room. It's going to be negative 2d6, negative 4d6, torrent, negative 3d6, negative 6d6. Now, what does this actually mean? It means every round, you're going to be losing 2d6, 3d6 HP, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you don't have that much HP, and you're going to start losing, everything, and then you're going to start dying, and then everyone's going to make fun of you. So something like a torrent of blood. Yes. So if you just keep stacking bleed, you're eventually going to die. Oh god, today I'm in misery, but not pain. Is that enough? Your skull becomes a ramp for Hot Wheels. Effectively, that is severe brain damage in a nutshell. Like, yeah, you're not, the character, the tormented is lit aflame. They take 1d10 health damage every round, increasing the damage by plus 1d10 every round thereafter. So, for example, at the end of the second round, it would do 2d10 damage then 3d10, 3d10, and so on. Yeah, burning is the worst possible state of being for you because it just does health damage. And effectively picture being like, oh, I got lit on fire. I've done what's only 1 health. Next round, it is 9 plus 8. It's done 17 HP damage. 16. You've done 19 health damage. Yeah, no, you're fire. Put yourself out if you start being on fire. See, concussed. -2. They take a -4 to all actions until they rest, until they are able to rest. Further concussions. Actually. I'm gonna make a note about that because bleeding, you actually have to hit home. Let's see. Tormented has suffered a concussion. They take a -2 to all actions until they are able to. Further concussions increase. Suffered a concussion from taking a blow to the head. They take a -2 to all actions until they are able to rest. Further concussions increase the penalty by -2 up to -10. The tormented is disoriented and unable to properly react. They lose one action on their next turn. They lose one action. They lose one action. Actually, actually, they gain no rev point. They gave no rev points this round. Let's see, they gain no rev points this round, and tormented is blinded by having their eyes gouged out, or being rendered, or losing their sight. They are unable to see, automatically failing any judgment related to their sight, and have -10 to their base SR, and have a -10 to their base -10 to their base SR. They have -10 to their base SR, and -10 penalty to strike any -10 to strike any target. Strike any target, otherwise known as if you've lost your fucking eyes, you're not gonna have a good time. Who's pinging me? You're on fire. I should put you out or you will die. Let's see. -10 base R, -10 to strike any target. Let's see. Can only be restored with a miracle. Can only be restored with a miracle. Let's see. Mented has lost an eye or been rendered blind in one of them. Blind one of them. They have -5 to their base SR. To their base SR. They have -5 to their base SR. And roll with a fumble on any site-based judgments. Yep. We're going to make it a little bit easier if you just lose a single eye, not the, like, you're completely fucking blind, but... fractured bone... Snapped in half, reducing... the Tormented's limb has snapped in half. Let's see, the Tormented's... bone in a limb of their... Actually, fractured bone, we'll put limb. Let's see, a Tormented's bone in their limb has snapped. They reduce the total body of their limb by half, rendering it more likely to be destroyed or severed later. May mitigate the effects if splinted correctly. So let's just do affected wound. The tormented's wound is entirely infected, reducing their health by 10 every room until the offending limb is removed or treated properly. Let's see the. The tormented is unable to move or act until the effect is removed, or by a miracle if it is a so parasite worms. They reduce their hunger. Poisoned. How do you get a status effect? Some status effects are gained from you take a damage from something. Enemies might have damage, might have effects that give you parasite worms. You might get them by traveling the world. That, hey, oh wow, there's a thing over here, well, that says giant evil parasite worms. Maybe I should eat this random piece of bread on the ground near it. It's things like that, or it's like fracturing bones. Like things with like fracturing bones, for example, you're going to actually have to, you take damage to a limb or something like that. Eye trauma, someone deliberately goes for your eyes, then you'll get eye trauma. A lot of eye trauma. Technically, if I want to be... we can add blunt, like infected wounds. Actually, to see if a you remind me to see if a wound is infected. To see if a wound is infected, flip a coin. Flip a coin. Coin flip. Coin flip. Coin flip. Coin flip. See if a open wound is infected. Coin flip. That, how do we determine if if we have a horrible infection that will kill us? Flip a coin. Heads or tails. Come on. Don't be a bitch. Poison, poison. Yep, poison's nice and easy. Severe organ damage. Mm. 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 Your maximum health by 20. Your maximum health by 20. Mm. Mm. Effectively, you just have less health to actually survive certain attacks. Let's see. Horrific wounds. The tormented cannot be healed with basic medical supply. With basic medical supplies, they require an you can no longer actually heal properly with horrific wounds. That's why it's scary. Shattered bones. The tormented's limb bone has been completely shattered. While it is still attached to the body, it has zero. Still attached to them. They have zero body. And cannot support their weight or carry anything. So now we start getting to add fun things. So let's add some fun things. We need to do paralysis. We'll do paralysis limb. The tormented is unable to move or use a particular limb until the effect is removed by a miracle. Until the effect is removed properly. Yep. Parasite worms, poison, severe organ damage. Shattered bone. We should do shattered bone. Has been shattered into fragments. While they are still miraculously alive, they take Berserk status effect, that's a good one. Status to effect because you walk too much. not really, I'm not looking at something like that. If you want to say, hey, you have a status effect on your leg, it would be, hey, you can't walk anymore because you have your legs fucking paralyzed. Hey, hey, your fucking leg's broken and you're barely holding on to it. Like, yeah, have fun. Woohoo! Woohoo! Hey, your fucking limbs been, your leg's been shattered. Probably be a better idea to cut it off at this point. Let's see. Let's actually, I like that one. If they were a puppet on strings. The possessing entity may take an action on their behalf. May take an action in the body of the tormented. May take riding their bodies if they are puppet. May take an action in the body of the tormented, after which they may attempt in occult judgment. Good way of to shake it off. For every action committed by the possessing entity, committed by the possessing entity, the tormented lose 1d10 mind. So if they perform 2 actions, you technically lose 2d10 mind because your body has been used as a fucking puppet, which isn't very fun for anyone involved. Yes. Worms, actually, for parasite worms, actually, it must be cleansed from the body with an endurance. Actually, we do with an endurance judgment. With an endurance judgment, or with treat. Yeah, parasite worms suck because, like, the thing with how I want hunger to work, and this is kind of a good time for me to muse about hunger. How I want hunger to work is that it's a method to keep you moving. You must always keep moving forward and wanting to look at places you may not want to because you have to. We do not have the right amount of food to survive this. We are going hungry and we're going to lower our effectiveness in combat. So it's like, hey, we're in a horrible dungeon. Let's take a moment to deviate our path to go to a pantry where we normally wouldn't. Let's take our time to, like, Hey, here's a friendly merchant we've been working with. Maybe we should just fucking kill him. Ever thought about that? Maybe we should just kill him because he has food on him and we can eat. Or hey, he himself is food. Let's see. Fear and hunger status effects. Tell me more about status effects. What horrible things can it fracture, bleeding, toxic, infected arm, blindness, terror, critical state? Ah. Very important to note down. Withdrawal. Very important. The tormented is addicted to a substance. Let's see. Tormented is addicted to a substance that requires constant intake. Requires constant intake. They are unable to, if they are unable or unwilling